So they want to know who I am and where I come from. I mean, people that Google me, they see me all over the internet now as the guy that's selling over 150 houses a year, that's been doing this for just shy of a decade and has been racking up these awards. But I mean, there's always a story as to how did I get to this point? Because if you would have asked me 20 years ago what I would be doing in my 40s, I guarantee you the answer wouldn't have anything to do with real estate. So it comes from a long background of always wanting to be a hustler. So my whole lifestyle, ever since a child, I was one of those kids that came from a family where I had to work for whatever it is I wanted. Now, I wasn't poor by any means, but my parents would try to instill on me at a very early age that if I wanted something, that I needed to understand the value of it. And I think that's something that's important for all children today, too. And it's something that I preach to my own children. But like when I wanted a pair of sneakers, for example, my pops would give me a $20 bill. And I'd be like, well, that's not going to get me the Reebok pumps or the Air Jordans or whatever I really wanted to rock. But he would tell me basically, son, that'll get you a pair of Chuck Taylors, and there's nothing wrong with rocking Chuck Taylors. That's what that $20 will do for you. You know, and Chucks were cool. But then I realized I wanted the shoes. I wanted the sneakers because I saw how other people felt, like how it boosted their self-esteem and their confidence when they was rocking those kicks. And I wanted to get a little taste of that myself. So I would go out and find ways to hustle, whatever it was, like cutting people's grass, raking people's leaves, buying packs of bubble gum, breaking it down and flipping it on the playground to make a profit and stack that money over time to the point where I would able to have what was left over to buy that pair of sneakers that I wanted. And it was always like cool when I would go to my pops and say, let's go to the sneaker shop. Let's go to Foot Locker. I want to get those pumps. And I would break out the cash. And then his face when he would see that, it was like a real proud moment, like a real proud papa moment where he'd be like, you did that? All right, yeah, get in the car. And we would have that road trip to the sneaker shop. And this was early on that he would just basically tell me that, son, with that mentality and that drive and ambition to want to do more for yourself, you can have whatever you want in this world. So it was really cool to learn that process early on. And I took that throughout my whole life. Whatever it was I wanted to do, I wanted to be the best that I could possibly be. And I was into sports. I played baseball, and I really tried hard at being the best baseball player I could be. I'm a boy here. I tried hard to be the best baseball player I could possibly be. Maybe I should have put more of that effort into my school, my studies, because I probably would have done a lot better in school, but I was more focused on what kind of money I was making, if I had the right sneakers, if I was doing well in the sports that I was playing, and so on and so forth, that if I put that effort into my studies, it might have worked out better for me, but needless to say, that's another story we won't get into. So I went through the process of, trying to figure myself out early on, and I always wanted to be the best. And when I played baseball, I said, I'm not just playing it because I enjoy the game now. I would look up to my favorite baseball players as a child and say, I wanted to be the next Ken Griffey Jr. I wanted to be the next Cal Ripken Jr. I wanted to be the guy playing for a lot of money. Now, when you're a kid, you could dream, and that's the beauty of being a child. But as you get older and go through the ranks, through Pee Wee baseball, through midget baseball, high school baseball, you go and play baseball in college, you realize that the competition is a lot more tougher the further you get. And if you don't have the right mindset, that it's not going to benefit, it's not going to pan out for you. And that was my problem. So and I'm playing baseball and I get to college and I'm used to being one of the top players on my team through high school. And then you get to college and I was playing Division III college. So you look at it from a standpoint of someone who's playing collegiate athletics, Division III, then there's Division II, then there's Division I, then there's kids coming right out of high school going straight to the pros, and then being in Division III, I started to realize real quick, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I am not going to make it as the next big Major League Baseball player, and I need to figure out a new lane, a new avenue. So, it's a tough pill to swallow in life because these things happen for anybody who's walking down the path and trying to figure themselves out and where they're going to end up. You hang the cleats up. So what's left over to do? Lots of partying, lots of girls, lots of having fun. And that's really what I ended up doing. I ended up leaving a Division III college, moving to a Division II college because it was a better party school. So I ended up going to Bloomsburg University. And that was at the time where Bloomsburg University was like the party school in the nation. I mean, boy, did we throw some bangers. And then, you know, you get into the whole college vibe there. You're in a college. And, you know, that's the thing I try to talk to my kids about too. You can easily get caught up into that whole scene for the wrong reasons. And that's exactly what happened to me. Because when I ended up going to the Bloomsburg and I was majoring in art because that's what I was good at, and it's not even necessarily an art school. I just went there because my sister went there, my older sister, and I visited and I liked the parties. And I said I wanted to be a part of that vibe, that scene. So then I go to Bloomsburg and got caught up real quick, got caught up into the hustle and the bustle of just going to frat parties, sorority parties, ended up joining a fraternity. I was a Delta Pi member, Sigma Pi, so it was a Delta Pi chapter of Sigma Pi, and was in the fraternity lifestyle. And I mean, it was fun. Literally burned and killed a lot of brain cells, and I watched my grades go. And it was like to the point where I was just holding on by a thread to just stay in college. And, you know, while I was there, you know, you're trying to figure out ways to do whatever. And a lot of college kids will get jobs to try to, you know, just keep their money together, because when you're in college, you're broke. You don't have any money. You rely on the cards that you have for your cafeteria food or whatever. And that's basically it. But if you want to have fun and you don't have any money coming in, college could be pretty boring. So me being in the fraternities and me being a part of the party scene, I got caught up into a whole different scene. And we don't need to talk exactly about all that, but for people out there that understand, I started selling and hustling things that I probably shouldn't have, but I made a whole lot of money doing it. And that made college, the whole college experience, that much more enjoyable, because not only was I at the party, in the party, I became the life of the party because I always had the party favors. So then you become everybody's best friend. And, you know, so that was a cool vibe for me, because now I started to feel like I belonged for something. And now it was time to turn it up a little bit, you know, because I didn't see myself going through college, graduating, getting an art degree, and doing anything. I started seeing myself as something bigger again. So what I lost from quitting baseball, I picked up becoming the life of the party. So I picked up a whole new persona where I was like, well, if I'm going to be the life of the party, and I started seeing all these people doing like performances, like bands would be at the parties and DJs would be at the parties. I was like, well, this is what I kind of want to get into on top of what I'm doing, because I already have the party favors. I'm already in here. Everybody knows what it's all about. I'm going to start DJing. So I got myself a set of turntables and started DJing. And then at the same time started spitting rhymes. Like I started learning how to rap, teaching myself how to rap. And it was just another element that I could bring into the party scene, where now I had the favors, I had the party, I had the fun, I had the friends, and now I had some other stuff to add there, that it just gave me more of a persona, more of a vibe. Like when I walked into a party, they knew what it was hitting for. I brought the party with me through every aspect of me just being there. So that went on for a while, to the point where I realized that I don't think I want to continue with college anymore. So I ended up transferring colleges again, a third time, literally 3 times. Still haven't got my bachelor's. This time I moved out to the University of Arizona in Tucson, Arizona. So we took it up another notch to Division I, because I figured my sister ended up graduating from Bloomsburg. She went down there, so I followed her down to Tucson. It was a bigger stage for me, a bigger platform, a lot more kids, a lot more exposure. And I took that whole vibe that I had cooking for me in Bloomsburg and just rocked it right down in Tucson. And me being an East Coast kid coming down into a West Coast vibe, Southwest vibe, it was a whole new world. Like I caught on real quick, built a really big following with the rap music, with the DJing, and then it just took off. So my grades were terrible at Arizona. They were the worst grades that I ever got in college, but I had the most fun. And what I also did was make a lot of connections that helped build me to the point where I felt confident enough to then drop out of college and pursue a career in hip hop. And a lot of people ask me, like, how does Pennsylvania's only Dealtor become the Dealtor? Well, I was rap entertainer for 16 years before I got into real estate. So a college dropout, and I got into the hip hop industry. I got into the hip hop industry for myself, writing my own music, but I also write music for a lot of other artists, a lot of other bigger labels. I got to perform with some of the biggest names in hip hop, and I got to perform and do it my way. And it was something that, like, I truly felt I was going to go somewhere with that. In the meantime, as an artist, you're not making any money. You know, you do these shows, a lot of these shows, you're paying to do the shows. It's hard to get gigs unless you have the money to spend. So I was literally selling to make money so I could then pay to open up for big name artists just to get a little bit of exposure. That's how the industry works. Unless you have somebody that's a manager and somebody that has the connections on their own, if you're trying to make it as an independent, you have to build your own following. So I was out there hustling, doing all this kind of stuff to really make a name and an image for myself. And me only knowing the party scene, me only knowing the hustling and doing the dirt, the grind behind the scenes, like my music reflected all that. So it wasn't the most positive music. I did like the girls. I'm not going to deny that one bit. And the girls liked me. And I had a lot of friends who were dancers, who were, you know, topless dancers. They performed at the clubs, and I would write music for them because that was another way that I could get my music heard. So I would write music that catered to the girls, that they could listen to and dance to while they were on stage carrying out their dreams. So it was like kind of a fun thing that we were all thinking we were going somewhere, but we really weren't going anywhere at the same time. And this went on for a while of me just traveling around aimlessly, didn't have an apartment, didn't have a house, didn't have a place to stay. And I just was doing this, just trying to make a name, thinking that I'm going to become famous. I really thought in the back of my head, I'm going to be the next biggest thing in hip hop. Well, you know, it was not that case at all. You know, I tried so hard and went for so long. And then what ended up happening is my best friend, my father, who was always on my back, the one that taught me about hustling at an early age, getting the sneakers, going out there and really made the man that I am today with the lessons he taught me, got deathly ill. So he ended up getting sick. He got liver disease. He had hepatitis C. And these were all things he kept from me. He didn't want me to know what was really going on. But this was something that happened long ago, way before I was even born. And it just started to catch up with him as he got into his 50s. And so he got really sick, and he was living in Lancaster. And at that time, I was living out in the Philadelphia area. I was bouncing back between Philly and doing a lot of music in Atlantic City. And then he got sick in Lancaster, and you know, I didn't really have anything going on. I was literally living on people's couches at that time, had no real steady job. And I figured that this was a good point in my life to go back and take care of my dad. So that's what I ended up doing. I moved back to Lancaster, where I came from. I was born and raised in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and ended up moving in with him. And he had an apartment on top of the Brickyard, which was a big club bar in downtown Lancaster. So I moved in with him, took care of him for 3 years. I mean, it was a roller coaster. You know, liver disease is not a good disease. But, you know, I always tell people in life, things are going to happen. Life is real, and you can't predict what's going to happen next. But I am grateful that I had the opportunity to spend those final years with my father, because it was a whole different element. It was a whole different aspect. You watched the man that you looked up to your whole life. The guy that was strong, the guy that had the strength, the guy that could always be there to pick you up. And then you see him struggling to pick himself up. And then the roles reverse. You end up becoming a guy that tries to help pick your dad up and get him up to where he needs to go. So that's what I ended up doing. And I was always a scrawnier guy. I mean, I'm not in the best shape right now, but at that time, that we're talking back when I was in my 20s, 25, 27 years old, I started getting on the juice. I was like, I need more strength. So I found a guy at the gym that could get me on the sauce that I could use that would make me stronger, so I could easily pick my father up when he needed to. And that's what I did. And I got jacked. And I was doing my music at the same time, still trying to do it in Lancaster, still selling the drugs, taking care of my sick father. And that's basically all I had going. I was delivering cheesesteaks. Shout out to my boy, Jimmy Carpathius from the Stakeout. I got to deliver cheesesteaks for my homies over there, and that was an awesome spot because we had the best cheesesteaks in downtown Lancaster, and I also got to hustle around and get to know the city like the back of my hand by giving everybody the sweet cheesesteaks that came from the stakeout. But that was my other little side hustle on top of everything else. I want to thank the Carpathius brothers for looking out for the boy while I was going through this period of time in my life. The long story is my father eventually lost his battle. But during that time and some of the last conversations I had with him, you know, parents will tell you a lot of stuff, and people that you look up to will tell you a lot of stuff in life. They'll tell you, you know, the grass isn't always greener. If something ain't broke, don't fix it. If you're happy, don't make a change. If you're not happy, make a change. These things didn't really start to stick until I actually got to see my dad, and then I knew that these were probably going to be some of the last conversations that I would ever have about with the man I cared about the most in this world. So I really just held all that stuff in deep. And he told me about my lifestyle. Son, I'm proud of the man that you've become. I'm proud of your hustle and your discipline of everything that you do in life. You give it 110%. And I've always appreciated that about you. I would just like to see you use that energy in a more, you know, positive way instead of doing it negatively, because you're attracting the wrong crowds. And I'm not going to be here to see what's going to become of you. But I know if you continue to go down this road, it's only going to lead you to something way worse than what's already happening. So I those words really, really held close to me. I really took them in. And then after he passed away, it was funny because at the funeral, people were all like, Dylan, I'm sorry about your pops. You know, it was tough. But at the same time, there was more of a relief because he suffered. And, you know, and I don't feel like anybody should have to suffer like that. But what he did was give me what I needed, the fuel that I needed to proceed into the next chapter of my life. So if you're somebody that's stuck in a rut and you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're not happy with what you're seeing, you're waking up every morning and you're not excited about what this day is going to bring, and you feel like there's no answer and there's no light at the end of the tunnel, go and watch some of these videos that I'm pumping out here on the YouTube channel. There's so much more on the YouTube channel that'll help give you a better understanding of who you truly are and what you could do to change that for yourself for the better.